All right, I've got the recording started a little bit early because I'm nervous that there's too much tech here for me. And I would ask folks in the room, if you have an opportunity, if you look up here and you ever see that somebody's waiting to be admitted to the wait room, please flag me. Because again, this is lots of computers and lots of stuff this morning.
Sometimes I don't get it right, but sometimes I get it. Yes, I will. But yeah, no, I don't. I'm not versed at all in the talk.
Did you guys happen to sign in? No. If you wouldn't mind doing that, just in case we start to get a really full room, we'll start to have what we need.
Oh, yes, I'll. My dear, what do you?
Hey guys, how you doing?
So how many of these?
30, 40.
Oh, there, for the meeting. Yeah. So we for people to have. Yeah. Okay.
Are you ready for the fire?
I'll say it, yeah, you can.
Well, if it's bad, I'll be on this kill cat.
I love the town, but.
Good morning.
Fine, you'll be okay.
One way or another, right?
Pretty much. How are you guys? Good, you? Oh, never had a bad day in my life. Couple of nights weren't so good, but the days were okay.
That's good. Tom, if you don't mind, I'll have you sign in. I don't know how many people we're gonna get here online, any of that, so.
Oh, I don't sign anything, you know.
Oh, God, I wish I didn't. That's- All right, Doug and Mary Lou are here
Always.
with them.
Always. And I've done that. I know. Yeah, and this morning he messaged me. He says, oh, I can see you go down, I came to you. And I'm like, I didn't do it to you. I didn't do you all. I didn't go. So, it's on your.
And folks, it's a little bit after 9, but I'm waiting in the hopes that Patrick McAllister will be joining us. And
How are you?
good morning.
Up and running. There you go.
Doug and Mary Lou are taking a long time to connect to audio. Yeah, if you guys, you might, the presentation stuff is probably gonna be just about 10 minutes, so however it works.
Well, I can see much better from here.
Yeah,
It's coming. Patty's gonna do it.
okay, well, that would be awesome. And we are gonna get some paper copies
Yeah.
for you as well.
I
If I can tilt this, there we go.
I heard bite though.
Well, only on occasions.
Do you want to sit on this side?
Oh,
I mean, you don't have to. It's
yeah,
just-
okay.
Guess so.
Is this it for the select board?
Oh, they're waiting for Patrick to call.
For Patrick online. Don't know. I don't know that Tristan's gonna come because I was talking with Patrick.
Tristan is coming or isn't?
I don't know that he's coming. We set this up at a time that Patrick was supposed to be able to be here.
My
so-
God, this child has completely disrailed this man.
Well, it's a good thing he's not the one that had it. Good God, he wouldn't be able to get out of bed until next year.
Shall we get in here? I don't see anything there.
Yeah.
Either.
I think at the beginning I wanted you.
Um, I'm gonna give it one more minute.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, right, is I asked VLCT if we had to have a quorum for this meeting, and they said, yes, or it's not a meeting. I'm like, it's an informational hearing, it's not a meeting. So if we hold the meeting, I don't know if we're gonna have to hold another meeting, or really not sure what we're gonna be doing, so.
Interesting.
Maybe, could you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see Robert's Rules of Order and whatever, they make sense, and you have to have something to run a meeting by.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's,
here's the
when-
reality.
when you got a small board or whatever,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, sometimes they're a real pain.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many meetings I've shown up to and not have a quorum, especially at a super board or something. And you sit there for half an hour whistling Dixie, and then you say, okay, we can go through this dog and pony show for no reason and then go home. Or we can just go home before the dog and pony show.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards, let's have the dog and pony show, and then I'll.
So where's your other, the lady, is it?
So,
Karen,
Karen, yeah, so Karen is on vacation in a place without internet access.
Like
And,
our house.
yes, yeah. All right, folks, it's 9:04, so I think we will go ahead and get this meeting rolling. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I know it is an unusual time. We did do it in an attempt to get a quorum. It looks like we do not have a quorum. I will consult with the LCT about what to do in this instance, because we warned the meeting properly. We don't, be too late to rewarn it. We are recording this meeting, and it will be posted for people to look at outside of this time frame as soon as I can make that happen, which likely will be this evening. So this is an informational hearing for the Halifax Special Town Meeting that is on August 13th. I have prepared some material for it and wanted to walk through this. Sorry?
It's coming.
Okay, yep. I've prepared some material for it, both in the online format. This slide deck is out on the Select Board communication page as a PDF document. It is in very small typeface at the top of that page. If anybody wishes on the call to take a look at that there. And again, we will be putting the recording up as well for this. So without further ado, I'm actually wondering if I can get somebody to volunteer to take minutes. I didn't know how many people would be here, but we are also without a secretary, and we are also short on people on the board, as you can see. And I didn't know if anybody would be willing to volunteer to do that. So I will pause for a moment of uncomfortable silence while I look at you all.
No.
What requires,
We have to have the minutes in 5 days from today, and we need to kind of note, generally speaking, who was here as an informational hearing. We wouldn't, and with a small group, we could certainly catch everybody. We need to just note the topics that are discussed, and that's pretty much it. So
I can do it unless somebody else really wants to. No, go ahead. You do it.
Kara, would you be willing?
Yeah.
We see you
I'll do
moving
it.
on screen.
Good.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
I'll do it.
much. Thank you so much.
Aw.
All of the uncomfortable asks that I have to give today, this is the first one of them. So thank you. Thank you so much, Kara. So we do have a special town meeting on August 13th. The polls are open from 10 to 7. It is being held in the Halifax Elementary School Library this time, so that is also different. And I do want to note that there is no floor meeting because all of the articles are on Australian ballot. What I want to do in this presentation is walk through Articles 2 and then 3, and then we'll go back to Article 1, where we do have some election meet the candidates information. So that's what I want to cover here. It took me about 10 minutes to walk through this when I practiced at home. So Article 2 is about replacing our wheeled excavator. There's a picture of it on the screen now at the corner of Green River Road and Old Stage. No, Jacksonville Stage Road and Old Stage. The article itself says, shall the voters authorize purchase of a highway equipment fleet excavator in an amount not to exceed $350,000 to be financed over a period not to exceed 15 years. So that's our first thing we're going to talk about. So the excavator is used daily at least 9 months of the year. It is also used at times during the winter. It is a machine that excavates, digs, trenches, that sort of thing. And our primary operator for this piece of equipment has been Barnett, who's been with the town for how many years? See,
December will be,
19, 20.
sorry,
December will be 18.
18, coming up on 18 years. So he's probably responsible for a lot of those 9,000 hours of service on this particular machine, although I'm sure there were others in the road crew who have taken, who have been using this machine over time as well. And we purchased this particular machine back in 2009. The cost at the time was $151,000. And we have the normal lifespan for this vehicle to be 15 years. Now, we did try to get estimated replacement costs. Mike did that in June of 2023. So we know that the numbers that we have are not necessarily accurate, but at some point you got to quit asking for an estimated cost and say, now let's do bids, right? So we think that the estimated replacement cost is going to be somewhere between $275,000 and $350,000. That amount, the $350,000, is a not to exceed in the warning as it's written. An optimal trade-in value for this piece of equipment might be $40,000, but again, these are all estimates. And lastly, but not least, what we want to know is how is this going to impact the town and the town's budget? We did some calculations with a couple of different rates and term lengths for loans from both bank and equipment vendors. And the estimated annual payment range is $46,000 a year up to $71,000 a year. Now, that's a fairly big range. I'd like to be able to be more precise for you, but one of the things that we are experiencing right now is just we're not sure about how long the term length might be, where the interest rates are high. Maybe they'll get a little lower. We're not sure. But that's just to give you guys a sense of what we think this might cost with all of those variables in place.
I had something to that.
Sure, of course.
Just to add to that, we talked about it in a select board meeting about calling Cat to have this one refurbished. It's still in the works, so. I mean, worst case scenario, even if you refurbish this one, I have a feeling it's gonna be a lot cheaper than what these numbers are.
Yeah, and that's a great information. Yeah.
But I don't have a number with them yet. It's been almost 2 weeks and they still haven't given me a number.
Okay, great. Thanks for that information then, Mike. I'm going to jump on to the wheel loader and the replacement of this. So this is a picture of that equipment. If anybody needs to know what the business end of it looks like, I did bring some props, which I was planning to donate to the 1st and 2nd grade class. There's a little Tonka one. This thing has the loader part on it. Sorry, I have to have some fun with these or I go crazy. And we are talking about this one. This piece of equipment is used year round. It's for loading, for materials transfer. As you can see on the picture, it has just shy of 8,371 hours of service, and about 461 since December 2023. So you can see that this piece of equipment is also heavily used. We purchased it in 2009 for $106,000. The normal lifespan is 15 years. And our estimated replacement costs with all the same caveats, older numbers, who knows what we would get today, but somewhere between 200 and 235,000. The optimal trade-in value is 30,000, and our estimated annual payment range would be 34 to 48,000 for this piece of equipment. I will read the article for this, which is Article 3, shall the voters authorize purchase of a highway equipment fleet loader in an amount not to exceed 235,000 to be financed over a period not to exceed 15 years. So that's what this one is about. All right. So Another big question I expect is, why now? Why are you guys doing this to us now? Especially after we all just got our tax bills, right? The reason for that is multi-purpose, and there's lots of reasons it ended up today. But any loan that the town is trying to get that's more than 5 years in length requires voter approval on a paper ballot. So that's a state law. We did not get these two pieces of equipment in last year's regular budget. We have a whole discussion about that a little bit later today in our 6 o'clock meeting, talking about how we got to the budget that we did. But we learned during this time that we aren't eligible for bonds because we don't have a full audit. And we're not expecting to do the audit until the end of fiscal year 25 as voted by the voters. Having said all of that, right? These machines are tired. We don't know when they're going to fail. They are at their normal lifespan. And at some point, the town needs to not get behind on equipment that we need. So the next question I figured people would ask was, what if we say no? Right, that's a fair question. The town is still obligated to maintain the roads. We do expect extra repair costs, or as Mike said, maybe it will be refurbishment costs, but those are things that'll hit the budget as well. We would expect that we might have some time when the equipment is not working. If projects get delayed, that definitely leads to staff burnout. It could lead to lost grant money if we don't have the equipment to finish the grant. And we also have looked in the past, at what would it, we might have to lease equipment. We might need to just say, give us a rental because we got to get this work done, which would hit the budget as well. Certainly the select board would be looking at any possible workarounds. Borrowing for 5 years on this kind of a heavy cost item doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but it's a possibility, I suppose. I suppose we could try to see if we could hit the lottery and get some used equipment, but we recognize that probably wouldn't be under warranty and we'd probably have the same repair issues, etc. And lastly, but not leastly, if the town votes it down, you will likely see this request coming again before too long. I wanted to finish this section by saying, what if we say yes? So if we say yes, what will happen is the town goes through a competitive bid process. Following our purchasing policy, we open sealed bids during a public meeting, which everybody's welcome to join us at. The board has discretion in the way that we write our purchasing requests for bids to choose the most appropriate equipment or to choose no equipment. But we always ask the highway department experts to review the specifications and give input on the piece of equipment and how it will meet the needs of the town. Cost is always a key factor in those decisions. Assuming we make decide to purchase a particular piece of equipment, we then begin to work with the equipment supplier or the bank to try to get competitive rates. Our ideal would be to get a 10-year loan term. These two pieces of equipment were purchased on 10-year loans originally, but in the most recent iteration, everybody's saying, oh, you can only do 6 years, or oh, you can only do 7 years, or just that's what the numbers that they were giving us. So I'm not really sure if we can get a 10-year loan, but that would be what we would shoot for.
I think you might want to correct yourself.
Okay,
These two pieces of equipment were bought on 5-year terms. The grader was bought on a 10-year term last time.
you were right. Thank you for that correction. I got information from Patty and she said she talked about 2 pieces of equipment though. Let me see if I can find that piece of paper, Mike. She said grader 2009, we paid it off in 21. And then excavator Caterpillar 06 paid off in 2015. So maybe that was an earlier one, but nonetheless, we would hope to get the longest length of loan we can. The reason that we do that longer loan period is because if you are a resident at that time, it is nice if you are helping to pay for the services. I don't necessarily want to buy a piece of equipment all up front if then I leave town, right? So that's why we try to get those loans that are a little bit lengthier. And then depending on the terms of those loans, sometimes we have to give an initial payment up front that might hit the current fiscal year budget, which the select board would have to, factor that in. Or it might be a payment that's in arrears that would start showing up on next fiscal year. But it wouldn't change the current taxes, is I guess the final point on that. Yay, I'm done talking on this piece. It is time for you guys to ask questions on Articles 2 and 3.
I guess.
Yeah.
First question, will probably go to Mike. If you refurbish either one of the pieces of equipment or both or whatever, what is the life expectancy of a refurbished one before you start having repairs again?
So it all depends on how much refurbishing you do. I told him when he asked, cause he pretty much asked me the same question. I said, I'd like to get another 15 years out of it. Well, I mean, the refurbish that I talked to him about was redoing the whole motor, redoing the whole hydraulic system, you know, so it's more or less gonna be a brand new machine. It's just
Everything but the tinware.
pretty much.
Okay.
But hopefully, the goal was 15 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask, Mike, if you asked about both pieces of equipment or just one in that?
Just one.
Okay,
I have not called anybody on the loader. The
Okay.
loader,
okay,
I thought it was a year after, but
okay. All right. Kara,
Following up on that, is the article written to permit a refurbishment plan if that turns out to be the best one? I just didn't put the two things together.
I don't think so, because it's written to authorize purchase.
So what happens if you decide that refurbishment is the way to go?
We would have a hit on our budget as that work was done, and if we have a deficit, we will be adding the deficit to the next year tax rate. If assuming we, because we did not budget for refurbishment. Second, Mary Lou, do you have any questions? Any other questions?
No, we don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Well, I would like to propose then that we move on to the second part of this, which is to talk about the elections. So we are looking in the elections, there are 4 positions, offices that are listed. We are looking to fill the remainder of a 3-year term as Patrick McAllister is resigning effective August 12th. And that term expires in 2026, which would make it about a year and a half of learning the ropes. I am asking at this point if there are any write-in candidates who wish to speak about their candidacy. I've heard of none personally, and I just I'm gonna go off a little bit on the whole elections stuff, just to say that clearly we were hoping somebody would step forward to do this important role. Patrick said in his resignation letter how much he felt this was a good thing to try to do. And I recognize that it is not always the right time for individuals, etc. I have been talking to people personally, and so write-in candidates are it's an interesting process. It's a little bit less of a challenge than going out and getting the 6 signatures or whatever you need at a certain time frame. But the the more, if you're trying to be a write-in candidate, please let people know so that, the word gets out is kind of, guess what I want to say on that. It's not something at some point, I can't wave a magic wand and get somebody to step forward for that. Patty is in the next room, and one question I can't remember the answer to is what's the minimum number of votes that we would need for somebody to get the vote, but then if they get the vote, they don't have to accept the position, right? So,
so you have to have a minimum number.
yeah, if it's a write-in campaign, it seems to me, and I don't know.
But no, like if
Yeah.
you just leave them blank and say 4 people vote for John.
Yeah, and that probably wouldn't reach the threshold, like it's something, I think that it might be like 10. Just in case you wanted to vote for Trump,
Oh, but there's a minimum that has to be.
there's a minimum that has
Yeah,
to be met.
It's all set up that way, so you can't vote for yourself and your wife vote for you, no one else, and all of a sudden you're the mayor.
Yes, yeah. So I don't know what the actual number is, but it is not a large number. All right, so let's move on to the auditor positions. These are 3-year terms. They are staggered for the remainder of the terms because, again, there were no candidates in March. And the first one that want to discuss is the term that's ending in 2027. There is a write-in candidate, Erin Lovern. And knowing she was interested in doing the write-in campaign, I asked her if she could come to the meeting. She could not come to the meeting, but she did write a note that she asked me to read on her behalf. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I guess I should say, if there are write-in candidates, I'm not necessarily endorsing anybody. I'm just saying, like, I want the information to be out. But it says Erin Lovern here, running for the Halifax Town Auditor position. In place of my attendance at the meeting Tuesday, 8/6, I've prepared some highlights about myself to share with you. I was born and raised in Wilmington alongside my brother, who is 7 years younger than me. My parents are both from the area and continue to live in Wilmington. Having roots in the community was always important growing up. My dad was active in coaching Little League, volunteering for events, and is the assistant fire chief on the Westover Fire Department. We were always encouraged to take part in our community. My husband, AJ, and I have been together since 2002, married since 2010. Over the last 22 years, we have resided in Brattleboro, 10 years, Guilford, 9 years, and most recently Halifax, in which we moved to in 2022. Here in Halifax, we are settled on a hill with our 25 chickens and our best dog, Karma. We sell our eggs at the bottom of our road and are looking to expand our animal presence over the next couple of years. Look for more than chicken eggs, but perhaps quail and duck eggs along with other locally sourced items. My occupation by trade is finance. I, in quotes, grew up working at CNS Wholesale Grocers from 2002 to 2020 when I was laid off through the COVID pandemic. In my tenure at CNS, I worked managing accounts receivable, accounts payable, contract compliance, corporate credit, business development, and mergers and acquisitions. CNS allowed for much growth and provided me with a wide range of knowledge specifically around finance. Following my departure from CNS, I took some time off to regroup and made a decision to start my own business with my husband, focusing on the needs of locally of property management. This has allowed for a more suitable work-life balance for where we are in our lives. I also manage bookkeeping for my dad's business. While not working, we enjoy spending time, when not working, we enjoy spending time with our 7-year-old nephew, kayaking, traveling, and working on our property and with our animals. Last year, I served as one of the 2 Halifax town auditors. With previous experience of audits, I provided leadership and instruction on how best to complete the audit, which we were successful in doing. Unfortunately, this year I was out of town during the time I needed to complete the appropriate paperwork and acquire signatures to be added to the ballot, so I'm looking for enough write-in votes during the election. I look forward to the opportunity to serve again this year as one of Halifax town auditors. Warm regards, Erin L. Lovern. I'd ask if anybody has questions about Erin or for Erin, but she's not here. So, all right, the second auditor's position that we have open is a 2-year term. Remainder of the term would be 2 years, expiring in 2026. And for that, we do have a candidate on the ballot, which is Stephanie Pike, who is sitting here with us. So welcome, Stephanie. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your interest?
Sure. So, for a while, my husband and I have been wanting to be more involved in the town, making it a stronger community. And with my profession, which is teaching, I'm really limited with time. And so the auditor position came up and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll, give it a try. Why not? So I've been a teacher for 21 years, middle school science. I do the bookkeeping being for our business, and I believe in being fiscally responsible personally, as well as a town. I believe in accountability, conservative spending. And I appreciate the town being small, being a community, and I just want to continue working in that type of environment. So.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
No, it should be good.
Okay. And then the last position that we have for auditor is a one-year position with the term expiring in 2025. Are there any write-in candidates for that present and willing to speak?
Guess not.
Okay. So that is the meet the candidates portion. So before we close, it's a small group. I didn't know if we would have a small group or a huge group. And I just want to ask if there are any further questions.
Your meeting tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
We do have a regular select board meeting tonight. We do, I do hope to spend a little bit of time talking about the other issue that's, hot here, which is how did we get to the tax increase that we did? And so invite people to come to that. We have a lot of other business to cover as well, but I thought it would be worth trying to, again, give people some history and background as to where that came from. And see if there's questions. Karen, did you have something? No, okay. Random waving. Don't scratch your nose. You'll get put in as a write-in candidate.
Either that or an auction, you just bought something you didn't want.
I have fears
You're
of
gonna-
that. Growing up at auctions, my mother was like, stop that. You bought a pig.
Oh.
All right, so I really encourage everybody to remember to vote. The polls are open 10 to 7, Halifax Elementary School Library. Again, there's no floor meeting. And if you need to do absentee ballot, please stop in to see the town clerk for absentee voting. Is there anything I have forgotten to cover that I should have covered here today?
Oh, I think it's pretty much.
All right, well, I really appreciate the community coming out and asking questions, the people who are stepping forward for positions, and I appreciate people voting, because that's how we know what people want. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I will close this meeting and appreciate everybody's time. Thank you. Bye, Doug and Mary Lou.